Elena Moore never imagined that a single week could alter the direction of her entire life. At 26, she had learned to measure her days in small victories. Early mornings at the cafe, late evenings tutoring students online, and the quiet satisfaction of paying her bills without owing anyone anything. Life had not been easy, but it had been honest. Love was something she believed in cautiously, like a beautiful thing that required careful handling. She met Julian Ashford on a rainy evening that had already gone wrong. The cafe's espresso machine had broken down, a customer had yelled at her for something that was not her fault, and Elena had stepped outside during her break just to breathe. That was when Julian appeared beside her under the narrow awning. Impeccably dressed, his accent polished, his smile warm in a way that felt disarming rather than arrogant. They spoke because the rain gave them no choice. He joked about bad timing. She laughed despite herself, and something quietly shifted. Julian was in town for a short business assignment, he said. He did not mention that his name carried weight in boardrooms across the country, that his family owned more wealth than most people could imagine. With Elena, he was simply a man who listened, truly listened, when she spoke about her dreams, her fears, her life. What was meant to be a fleeting connection deepened with surprising speed. They walked through the city after shifts ended, shared meals at modest restaurants, and talked until midnight about everything and nothing. Julian admired her independence, her intelligence, the way she carried herself without bitterness despite hardship. Elena saw in him a gentleness she had not expected, a man weary of expectations, hungry for something real. When he touched her hand for the first time, it felt deliberate, reverent. When he kissed her, it was not hurried or careless. It felt like a promise. Julian told her he had never felt so understood. Elena believed him because she felt the same. On the final night before he was due to leave, they lay together in the quiet of her small apartment, city lights spilling across the walls. Julian traced slow circles on her arm, his voice low and earnest as he spoke about wanting more, about staying in touch, about seeing where this could go. He said he would call. He said distance did not scare him. He said she mattered. Elena fell asleep believing him. At first, everything continued as promised. Texts arrived in the morning. Calls came late at night. Julian spoke of meetings, travel, pressure from his family. Elena listened, supportive but careful not to ask for more than he was offering. She did not want to be another obligation in his already complicated world. Then the responses grew slower. A missed call here, a delayed reply there. She told herself he was busy. She told herself not to panic. The last message he sent said, "I will call you tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. Days passed, then weeks. Elena's messages remained unread. Her calls went straight to voicemail. Panic gave way to disbelief, disbelief to quiet devastation. She searched his name online, her hands shaking as headlines filled her screen. Julian Ashford, heir to a corporate empire. Julian Ashford, rumored engagement to a woman from his family's social circle. The man she had loved so easily, so deeply, had vanished as though she had never existed. Elena told herself to move on. She forced herself back into routine, burying the ache beneath exhaustion. But her body betrayed her in small, unsettling ways. Nausea in the mornings, a fatigue that sleep did not cure. When her period did not come, she tried to rationalize it away. She stood alone in her bathroom one evening, the test trembling in her hand, her heart pounding so loudly it drowned out everything else. Positive. The word blurred as tears filled her eyes. She sank to the floor, her back against the cold tile, one hand pressed over her mouth to stifle a sound that felt torn from somewhere deep inside her chest. Fear came first, then anger, then a crushing loneliness so heavy she could barely breathe. She tried to call Julian again. One last time. The call did not go through. In that moment, Elena understood something fundamental. She was alone in this. Whatever had existed between them, whatever promises had been spoken in the dark, they had not been strong enough to survive his world. She considered every option in silence. The easy path, the difficult one, the path that would change her forever. And in the midst of fear, something else emerged. an unexpected, fierce protectiveness for the life growing inside her. If she had been abandoned, her child would not be. Elena chose to keep the pregnancy secret. She moved to a different part of the city, found a cheaper apartment, took on more work. The days blurred together in a haze of exhaustion and quiet resolve. She endured whispers, judgmental glances, and the loneliness of prenatal appointments attended alone. At night, when fear crept in, she placed a hand over her stomach and whispered promises she was not yet sure she could keep. She promised love. She promised safety. She promised that her child would never feel unwanted. There were moments, late at night, when the world felt unbearably quiet, when Elena allowed herself to grieve. Not just the man who had left, but the future she had briefly glimpsed. The family she had imagined. The trust she had given so freely. By the time her daughter was born, Elena had built walls around her heart so strong she believed nothing could breach them. She named her Lily, a name that felt gentle and resilient all at once. When she held her for the first time, tiny and perfect and impossibly real, something inside Elena hardened into unbreakable resolve. Her child would be loved enough for two. Julian Ashford became a name she did not speak, a memory she locked away. He was the man who vanished, the millionaire who disappeared when she needed him most. And Elena Moore moved forward, not because she was unafraid, but because standing still was no longer an option. Elena learned quickly that time did not soften pain. It simply taught her how to live alongside it. Lily became the center of her world with a quiet, consuming force that left no room for self-pity. The nights were the hardest at first. Lily cried often, her tiny lungs fierce despite her size, and Elena would pace the narrow apartment with aching arms, whispering reassurances into the soft curve of her daughter's ear. She slept in fragments, ate standing up, and learned to function on exhaustion because there was no alternative. Money was tight. Every decision carried weight. She returned to work sooner than she should have, leaving Lily with a retired neighbor who watched her during the day in exchange for modest pay. Elena hated every minute she spent away, but she reminded herself that love alone could not pay rent or buy formula. Survival demanded sacrifice. Lily grew quickly, her dark eyes alert and curious, her smile bright enough to make strangers stop and stare. She was an easy baby in some ways, calm and observant, as if she understood how much her mother carried. Elena poured everything she had into her, teaching her words early, reading to her every night, singing softly when the world felt too loud. Julian's name never crossed Elena's lips. When Lily was old enough to ask questions, Elena answered only what was necessary. She told her that families came in many shapes, that love was what mattered most. It was the truth, even if it was not the whole one. As the years passed, Elena built a life that looked stable from the outside. She moved into a slightly larger apartment, found steadier work, and established routines that gave Lily a sense of security. But beneath the structure, fear remained. Fear of illness, fear of loss, fear that Lily would one day feel the absence Elena had tried so hard to shield her from. Lily turned 4 in a burst of excitement and color. She loved drawing butterflies, hated vegetables, and asked endless questions about everything she encountered. It was on an ordinary afternoon, while they were walking home from the park, that the question finally came. "Why don't I have Daddy?" Lily asked, her small hand wrapped around Elena's. Elena's steps slowed. She had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her head, but when it arrived, it still caught her unprepared. She knelt so they were eye level, brushing a curl back from Lily's forehead. "Some children live with their daddies," she said carefully. "Some don't, but that doesn't mean they're loved any less." Lily considered this, her brow furrowing in thought. "But you get tired, Mama," she said softly. "Who helps you?" The honesty of it stole Elena's breath. She forced a smile. "I'm okay, sweetheart. I have you." Lily hugged her tightly, satisfied for the moment, but Elena felt the weight of the question linger long after they returned home. That night, after Lily fell asleep clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit, Elena sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. She wondered if she had made the right choice, keeping the truth buried. She wondered if protecting Lily from rejection was kinder than denying her the chance to know where she came from. She never considered reaching out to Julian. Pride and pain had fused into something immovable. If he had wanted to be part of their lives, he would have been. She refused to beg a man who had already walked away. Fate, however, did not ask permission. The invitation arrived unexpectedly, slipped in her email one morning while she was sorting through invoices at work. A professional development seminar sponsored by a major corporate foundation. Attendance was encouraged. The keynote speaker's name made her stomach drop. Julian Ashford. Elena stared at the screen, her pulse racing. Years had passed, yet the name still held power over her. She closed the email, reopened it, then closed it again as if that might change reality. She considered declining, but practicality won. The seminar promised connections, opportunities she could not afford to ignore. She told herself she could avoid him, sit quietly at the back, leave early. The auditorium was crowded, filled with professionals in crisp suits and polite conversation. Elena took her seat, heart pounding, her attention fixed firmly ahead. When Julian walked onto the stage, the room erupted in applause. He looked older, more composed. The boyish warmth she remembered had sharpened into confidence, authority. But when he smiled, something familiar flickered beneath the polish. Elena kept her eyes forward, her expression neutral. She refused to react. The seminar ended sooner than she expected. As people began to stand and talk, Elena gathered her things quickly, intent on leaving before he could notice her. Elena, the sound of her name stopped her cold. She turned slowly. Julian stood a few feet away, his expression unreadable at first. Then recognition dawned, followed by something that looked dangerously like shock. His gaze swept over her face, lingering as if trying to reconcile memory with reality. "Elena," he said again, quieter now. "It's really you." Her heart hammered, but her voice remained steady. "Julian." For a moment, neither of them moved. The air between them felt charged, heavy with unspoken history. "I tried to find you," he said abruptly. "Years ago, you disappeared." A bitter smile curved Elena's lips. "So did you?" Color rose in his face. "I know I owe you an explanation." "You don't owe me anything," she replied, though the words tasted hollow. His eyes searched hers, as if sensing something he could not quite name. "Can we talk? Please." Every instinct screamed to walk away, but something in his expression, confusion layered with regret, gave her pause. "5 minutes," she said. "That's all." They stepped aside into a quieter corner. Julian spoke first, words tumbling out about family pressure, control, mistakes he regretted daily. Elena listened, arms folded, heart locked tight. "You left," she said simply when he finished. "I needed you, and you left." His jaw clenched. "I was wrong. I was afraid. And I have spent every day since knowing I destroyed something precious." Silence stretched between them. Then Lily's voice drifted from Elena's phone, which buzzed in her bag as a reminder alarm went off. Julian's gaze flicked toward it, then back to her. "You have a child," he said slowly. Elena met his eyes, something resolute settling in her chest. "Yes," she said, "I do." And in that moment, she knew the past was no longer something she could outrun. Julian did not ask the question aloud, but it lived in his eyes as clearly as if he had spoken it. Elena recognized that look instantly, the careful calculation of dates, the sudden awareness of possibility. She lifted her chin, refusing to give him more than she was ready to offer. "That is my daughter," she said evenly. "Her name is Lily." Something shifted in Julian's posture, the confidence he carried like armor cracking just enough to reveal the man beneath. "How old is she?" he asked, his voice restrained but unsteady. 4, Elena replied. The answer landed heavily between them. Julian exhaled slowly, his gaze dropping to the floor before returning to her face. "Elena, if there is even a chance. There is no conversation about this here," she cut in quietly but firmly. "Not in a hallway. Not after all these years." He nodded, swallowing. "You are right. I'm sorry. This matters." It mattered then, she said, unable to stop the edge in her voice. It matters now, because you happened to run into me. The words stung them both. Julian looked as though he wanted to argue, to defend himself, but instead he straightened. Please, he said, let me take you for coffee. Let me listen. If after that you never want to see me again, I will respect that. Elena hesitated. Every instinct told her this was dangerous. She had spent years building a life free of him, protecting her daughter from disappointment she knew too well. And yet, Lily's question echoed in her mind. Who helps you? 1 hour, she said finally. That is all. They chose a quiet cafe a few blocks away. It was smaller than the one where they had first met, but the scent of coffee and soft murmur of conversation stirred memories Elena had long buried. Julian pulled out a chair for her without thinking, the old courtesy still present beneath the polish. For a few minutes, they spoke cautiously about work, about the years that had passed. Julian told her about breaking free from his family's control, about rebuilding his career on his own terms. Elena listened, but did not soften. Finally, he looked at her directly. Why did you never tell me? He asked. Elena did not pretend not to understand. Her fingers tightened around her cup. You vanished, she said. I called you. I messaged you. I begged the silence for an answer. What was I supposed to do? Chase a man who had already chosen not to stay. Julian's face paled. I never received those messages. She laughed, short and humorless. That is what you tell yourself so you can sleep at night. No, he said, leaning forward urgently. My father intercepted them. He cut off my access, changed numbers, controlled everything. By the time I fought my way out, you were gone. Elena studied him, searching for deception. What she saw instead was regret, so raw it made her chest ache despite herself. And the engagement? She asked. There was no engagement, Julian replied. Only expectations, ones I refused to meet. Silence fell again, heavier this time. Elena took a slow breath. You do not get to rewrite history, she said. I lived it. Alone. Julian nodded, eyes shining. I know, and I cannot change that. But if Lily is my daughter, I want to do right by her. By both of you. There it was. The truth finally spoken. Elena stood. You do not get access to her because you feel guilty. I am not asking for forgiveness, Julian said quickly. I am asking for a chance to be accountable. She paid for her coffee and turned to leave. Julian followed, desperation creeping into his voice. Please, let me meet her, even once. Elena stopped outside the cafe. The street hummed around them, life continuing as though nothing monumental had just been unearthed. She closed her eyes briefly, weighing risk against possibility. She does not know you exist, Elena said. And if I let you into her life, you do not get to disappear again. Not once. I will not, Julian said without hesitation. I swear. She looked at him, truly looked at him, and saw not the careless man who had broken her heart, but one who carried the weight of years lost. Still, promises were easy. Consistency was not. You will meet her, Elena said slowly. On my terms. No titles. No expectations. You will be a stranger she can choose to trust. Relief flooded his face, quickly followed by solemn determination. Thank you. This is not forgiveness, she warned. This is caution. The meeting took place in a public park on a Sunday afternoon. Elena arrived early with Lily, watching as her daughter raced across the grass, laughter ringing through the air. Julian arrived a few minutes later, standing awkwardly at the edge of the path, as if afraid to step too far in. That is him, Elena said quietly. Lily squinted, curious. Why is he looking at me like that? Elena crouched beside her. His name is Julian. He is someone from my past. Julian approached slowly, kneeling so he was at Lily's level. Hello, he said gently. Your drawing is beautiful. Lily blinked. You know I was drawing? He smiled softly. I can tell by your hands. They are covered in color. She giggled, instantly charmed despite herself. Elena watched carefully, every muscle tense, but something in Julian's demeanor surprised her. There was no grand gesture, no forced affection. He listened. He followed Lily's lead. When she lost interest and ran off, he let her go, content to simply be present. As the afternoon faded into evening, Elena felt something she had not allowed herself in years. Uncertainty tinged with fragile hope. This was not a reunion. It was a beginning. And beginnings, she knew, could be just as terrifying as endings. Time tested Julian in ways words never could. Elena did not make it easy for him, and she did not apologize for that. Trust, once broken, demanded proof, not promises. Julian accepted every boundary without complaint. He showed up when he said he would. He left when Elena asked him to. He never questioned her authority as Lily's mother, never attempted to buy affection with gifts or grand gestures. He came with patience, humility, and a quiet consistency that slowly began to matter. Lily remained cautious at first. She called him by his name, observed him with curious eyes, and measured him in the way children do, by how he listened, by whether he remembered small things. Julian learned quickly. He remembered her favorite color, the way she hated loud noises, how she liked her sandwiches cut into triangles instead of squares. When she fell and scraped her knee one afternoon, it was Julian who sat beside her on the pavement, speaking softly until her sobs eased. Elena watched it all from a careful distance, her heart locked behind years of self-preservation. Yet cracks formed despite her resolve. She could not deny the way Julian looked at Lily, with awe, reverence, and something close to grief for the time he had missed. She could not ignore the way Lily began to seek him out, tugging his sleeve to show him a drawing, asking him to push her higher on the swing. One evening, as Julian was leaving after dinner, Lily asked the question Elena had both dreaded and expected. "Why don't you stay?" Lily asked, her voice small but steady. Julian froze, glancing instinctively toward Elena. Elena knelt beside her daughter, heart pounding. "Julian has his own home, sweetheart." Lily frowned. "But you come a lot," she said to him. "Are you my daddy?" The world seemed still. Julian swallowed hard, his eyes shining as he looked at Elena for permission he did not dare assume. Elena's chest tightened, fear and truth colliding painfully. This was the moment she had tried to postpone, the moment when protection required honesty. "Yes," Elena said quietly. "He is." Lily stared at Julian, studying his face as if seeing it for the first time. "You were gone," she said simply. Julian dropped to his knees, bringing himself level with her. "I was," he said, his voice thick, "and that was wrong. I cannot change that. But I am here now, if you will let me be." Lily considered this with solemn seriousness, then reached out and touched his cheek. "You can stay sometimes," she decided. Tears slipped down Julian's face as he nodded. "I would like that very much." That night, after Lily was asleep, Elena confronted the emotions she had long suppressed. She stood at the sink, staring into the darkened window as Julian waited behind her. "You cannot fail her," she said without turning. "If you walk away again, you will destroy her." "I know," Julian replied, "and I will not." She turned to face him, her composure cracking. "Do you have any idea what it was like? Being pregnant and alone? Wondering if I would lose my job, my home, my mind?" Julian closed the distance between them, stopping just short of touching her. "I cannot undo that," he said, "but I will spend the rest of my life trying to make sure you never feel that way again." Elena wanted to believe him. The desire frightened her. Weeks turned into months. Julian became a steady presence. School events, bedtime stories, scraped knees, quiet breakfasts. He learned how to braid Lily's hair clumsily, how to read the same story 3 times without complaint, how to sit through Elena's silences without demanding forgiveness. Slowly, Elena began to breathe easier. The burden she had carried alone for so long grew lighter, shared in small, meaningful ways. She found herself laughing more, sleeping better, imagining a future she had once refused to consider. Still, fear lingered. Julian's world was not hers. He moved between boardrooms and galas, a reality Elena had deliberately kept at a distance. She worried about what would happen when those worlds collided. The collision came sooner than expected. Julian invited them to a charity event, insisting it was important. Elena resisted, but Lily's excitement at the idea of dressing up weakened her resolve. They arrived to a sea of polished smiles and whispered curiosity. Elena felt exposed, her hand tightening around Lily's. Whispers followed them. Recognition spread quickly. That was when a woman approached, her smile sharp and practiced. She addressed Julian with familiarity that made Elena's stomach twist. "So this is her," the woman said, her gaze flicking to Lily. "Interesting." Julian's jaw tightened. "This is my family." The woman's smile faltered. Elena met Julian's eyes, a question unspoken but heavy. Was he ready to stand between them and a world that had once pulled him away? Julian answered without words, pulling Lily closer, his stance unyielding. And in that moment, Elena realized something profound. This was not a man visiting their lives. This was a man choosing them. For the first time, Elena allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the future did not have to be built alone. The weeks that followed the charity event tested every layer of their fragile peace, but they also strengthened it in ways Elena had never expected. Julian did not shy away from the scrutiny, the whispered comments, or the occasional raised eyebrows. Instead, he faced each one with quiet confidence, with a calm that reassured both Elena and Lily. He learned quickly that being a father in the public eye demanded more than presence. It required courage, patience, and unwavering loyalty. At home, their life began to settle into a rhythm both comforting and exhilarating. Julian was no longer just a visitor. He was part of their everyday existence. He woke early to prepare breakfast for Lily, ensuring her favorite oatmeal was cooked just right, her toast perfectly buttered and cut into triangles. He learned to anticipate her moods, to navigate the delicate balance between discipline and affection. Elena watched it all with cautious awe, realizing that this man who had once vanished was now anchoring her family in ways she had never imagined possible. One rainy Saturday afternoon, Julian suggested a simple outing, a trip to the local park. It was the sort of mundane event that should have been ordinary, yet with him, it became extraordinary. Lily insisted on bringing her favorite stuffed rabbit, while Julian carried a small backpack filled with snacks and juice boxes. The three of them walked along puddled paths, Elena holding Julian's hand while Lily darted ahead, her laughter echoing through the gray skies. It was during moments like these that Elena saw the transformation most vividly. The way Julian instinctively protected, guided, and celebrated their daughter, all without overshadowing her. But it was also a time for vulnerability. One afternoon, as they returned from a walk soaked by the sudden downpour, Elena paused at the doorway, her coat dripping and hair plastered to her face. Julian looked at her with concern, taking her hand gently. "Elena," he said, his voice low, "you've been carrying so much for so long. Let me carry it with you now. Please." She hesitated, the fear of dependence gnawing at her. But the weight of exhaustion, relief, and longing broke her resolve, and she allowed herself to lean against him. Julian's embrace was steady, warm, and reassuring. It was a silent promise that whatever had been lost could never be taken again. The months rolled on, marked by small milestones and quiet triumphs. Lily learned to trust him completely, seeking him out when she scraped her knees or when she simply wanted to share a secret. Julian, in turn, adapted seamlessly to the rhythms of her life. Bedtime stories, grocery trips, school events, and lazy Sunday mornings. Elena marveled at the ease with which he integrated into the world she had meticulously constructed for her daughter, a world that had been carefully shielded from disappointment and pain. Then came the day that would solidify the depth of their bond. Julian, recognizing that Elena needed space for herself, arranged for a quiet evening at their home. A simple dinner, just the two of them after Lily was asleep. Elena was nervous, unsure of what to expect. She arrived to find candles lit, soft music playing, and Julian waiting with a quiet intensity that made her heart race. The night unfolded slowly, a dance of conversation, laughter, and subtle touches that rekindled the fire they had cautiously nurtured. He spoke of his hopes, his regrets, and his unwavering commitment to them both. Elena, in turn, shared the fear she had long kept buried. The fear of abandonment, of failing as a mother, and of loving again. And then, without fanfare or grand declaration, Julian took her hand, pressing it to his lips. "Elena," he whispered, "I have waited for every moment to be with you like this. I will not waste a single one. You are my home, and Lily my world. I promise to honor that every day." Tears spilled down her cheeks as she realized, finally, that the man who had once left her world fractured was now the one holding it together with unwavering devotion. From that night onward, their love deepened, layered with shared responsibilities, quiet joys, and mutual respect. Julian became more than a father and partner. He became a teammate in the truest sense. He learned to navigate the delicate balance of career and family, often bringing work home only to ensure he was present for the moments that mattered most. Elena, seeing his dedication, allowed herself to lean into the life she had once feared would never be hers. A life filled with laughter, shared burdens, and love that was tangible in every glance, every gesture, every word. The turning point came unexpectedly. Julian invited Elena and Lily on a weekend trip to the countryside. It was meant to be a simple escape, a chance to breathe outside the confines of their busy lives. But amidst the quiet meadows, the golden sunsets, and the endless skies, Julian knelt in the grass once more, this time with Lily watching intently. He opened a small box and held it toward Elena. "Elena Sinclair," he began, voice steady but filled with emotion, "you have given me a second chance at life, at love, at family. Will you marry me and let me spend every day proving that I am worthy of you?" Elena's breath caught as she opened the box. The ring inside was delicate, radiant, and perfectly reflective of the man she had come to know, thoughtful, steadfast, and true. "Yes," she whispered, voice trembling. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Lily clapped enthusiastically, not fully understanding, but sensing the significance of the moment. Julian swept Elena into his arms, kissing her with the intensity of years spent waiting and yearning. It was a kiss that spoke of forgiveness, of hope, of promises kept. And in that embrace, the fractured pieces of their past found their place, forming a whole more beautiful than either could have imagined. That night, as they returned home, Elena allowed herself to dream freely for the first time in years. She imagined a life where fear no longer dictated her choices, where love was not measured by what was lost, but by what was gained. Julian had returned, but not as the man who vanished. He had come back transformed, ready to stay, ready to fight for them, ready to love them completely. And Elena knew, with a certainty that warmed her heart, that they would never be apart again. This was the chapter where trust was rebuilt, where love matured, and where the promise of forever began to feel attainable, tangible, and real. The sun was low in the sky, casting a golden glow across the garden of their new home, and Elena sat on the porch swing, watching Lily chase her younger brother, James, across the lawn. The children's laughter filled the air, a symphony of joy and carefree innocence that made her heart swell. She rested a hand on her rounded belly, feeling the tiny flutter of life growing inside her, and for the first time in years, she felt completely at peace. Julian, carrying both children with effortless ease, approached her, his eyes bright with warmth and love. "Happy?" he asked, settling beside her on the swing. "Tired," Elena corrected, laughing softly, but happy. Julian tilted his head, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Good, because this is us now. All of it. The chaos, the laughter, the sleepless nights, it's ours together." They watched as Lily's laughter transformed into gleeful squeals when James tried to escape her playful chase. The garden, filled with late spring blooms, seemed to glow with life and possibility, reflecting the growth of their family and the love that had taken root between them. Elena marveled at how far they had come, from the days of fear, isolation, and uncertainty to this moment of shared joy, trust, and unwavering devotion. That evening, After the children were tucked into their beds, Julian took Elena's hand and led her to the living room. The soft glow of the lamps cast gentle shadows across the walls, and the quiet hum of the night wrapped around them like a protective cocoon. Julian pulled her close, his hands settling protectively over her stomach. "Do you feel that?" he whispered. "That little kick?" Elena laughed, nodding as the baby moved under his touch. "I feel it, and I feel you. Every day, I feel how much you've changed our lives." Julian brushed a strand of hair from her face, his eyes swimming with emotion. "Thank you," he murmured, "for giving me a chance, for trusting me, for loving me, for everything." Elena whispered back, her voice soft but steady. "For coming back, for staying, for building this life with us." Their eyes met, and in that silent exchange, they acknowledged the journey they had traveled, through heartbreak, doubt, fear, and uncertainty. And now, with 2 children laughing upstairs and a third growing inside her, they stood on the threshold of forever, ready to face whatever came next together. As the months passed, their life settled into a rhythm that was both comforting and exhilarating. Julian became more than a father and partner. He became a steadfast presence, a source of strength and joy. He attended every school event, celebrated every milestone, and never missed a bedtime story. Elena watched him with a mixture of awe and gratitude, realizing that the man who had once vanished was now the one anchoring her family with unwavering devotion. On warm August evenings, they would gather in the garden, the children running and playing while Elena and Julian shared quiet moments together. The laughter, the occasional mischief, the shared glances, all wove a tapestry of love and family that was as vibrant as it was unshakable. When the baby arrived, a healthy, strong boy named Thomas, their lives shifted once more. The first few weeks were challenging, as all newborns demanded attention, but Julian embraced every moment with patience and care. Elena marveled at how effortlessly he balanced the needs of 3 children while still ensuring that their relationship thrived. They discovered a new intimacy, a deeper connection forged through shared responsibility, sleepless nights, and unwavering support. One quiet evening, as the children slept, Julian and Elena sat together on the porch swing, the night air cool and fragrant with blooming flowers. Julian wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close, and rested his hand over her heart. "We've built something incredible," he whispered. "A life filled with love, laughter, and trust. And it's ours, Elena. Completely ours." Elena leaned into him, feeling the steady beat of his heart, the warmth of his embrace, and the strength of his promise. "We survived the storm," she murmured. "We found each other again, and now we have everything." Julian pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Everything," he agreed, "and we'll keep building every day together. No more running, no more fear, just us." In the glow of the porch lights, surrounded by the evidence of their love, sleeping children, a growing family, and a future stretched bright before them, Elena knew they had reached the place she had always dreamed of. The heartbreak, the pain, and the uncertainty of the past had all led them here, to a life of unwavering love and unshakable trust. They held each other close, feeling the life of their children and the promise of the future in every heartbeat. And in that perfect moment, Elena understood the true meaning of home. Not a place, but a presence. A presence that stayed, that protected, that loved, and that would never let her feel abandoned or alone again. This was their forever, their family whole, their hearts mended, their love unwavering. And for the first time since she discovered she was pregnant by the man who had vanished, Elena felt a peace that no fear, no absence, and no heartbreak could ever take away. They had found their way back, against all odds, and nothing would ever tear them apart again.